Did You Play That? Our retro gaming podcast focused on some of our favorite classic games. My name is Eric, and the eager young space cadet to my Dr. IQ co-host is Josh. And today we're going to be discussing Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions. Before we get too far into it, if you've been enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, follow us on Instagram at Did You Play That, watch some of our playthroughs on YouTube, and share it with a friend. We'll appreciate that. Let's get into this, Josh. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I really enjoyed this game very much, so I'm excited to talk about it.
I'm shockingly surprised to be talking about this, to be honest, because this was one that you had mentioned and brought up, and I don't even know if I knew it really existed before you did. So I'm sure we're going to have a grand old time talking about this one, because it was a fun game in the end. You played this before? Did you own this?
I played this like once or twice at a friend's house, so I really never got anywhere into it. I think maybe I'd seen the second level or the second world, and that's about it. So I was excited to finally get to play it myself all the way through. Yeah,
I feel like I know I saw the Bugs Bunny one. I forget what that one's called, but there was a Bugs Bunny one, and I'd seen and played that one a little bit, but when you brought this up, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I expected to just be playing as, like, an angry Daffy Duck, and I was like, I don't know what Marvin missions are, and all these things, and I feel like I got through a good chunk of it, and I was like, this has got some really good pieces to it, and I can't wait to really dissect it. Before we dissect it, I loved the cameos late in the game. I'm not gonna lie, because I grew up watching a lot of Looney Tunes.
Mm-hmm,
Did you watch a lot of Looney Tunes?
Not a ton, I have to say. I feel like I watched more of the what were the little ones called?
Tiny Toons?
Tiny Toons?
Yeah.
I saw those more than actual Looney Tunes, I would say.
I grew up at my grandparents' house watching a lot of Looney Tunes on, like, the weekends and whatnot, because they were, like, fine with watching it. I have some fond memories of them, but man, the longer I played this, the more I wanted to go and watch, like, Space Jam or play, like, a Space Jam video game.
Absolutely.
And something about it just, like, it just really dug at me. And I was like, I'm going to go put on Space Jam later and just listen to the music.
Yeah, this one definitely hit with the nostalgia feel that is kind of one of the big reasons we started the podcast, which was great.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into this. Let's talk Daffy Duck and these Marvin missions.
Duck Dodgers.
Duck Dodgers. Yeah. You know what? It took me a while to make that connection. I don't know if that was like something I just missed early, because they do give you a little bit of a story, which is nice about this, because I feel like a lot of the video games we've played so far, the story has been hidden in the manuals. And this one did try and give you some story in-game and with those little, like, cutscenes between the worlds. And I know you wanted to talk about those because there's a lot of humor in them.
Absolutely.
I appreciated it because I felt like I knew what was going on for the first time.
Yes, it was clear that we were, getting closer and closer. Like, each stage had its theme, and the goal was to eventually work your way towards the actual Marvin Martian and take him out. Yeah. Save the world.
So how do you want to attack this one? I mean, this one's, I feel like it's more your game. Like, you definitely know it a lot better than I do, or know it more nostalgically.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good place to start would just to be, as we did in the past with some of our other games, this is one that lends itself well to, going world by world, and we'll start there and see how that goes.
Let's do that then.
So the first world is Planet Magma, and it says, so I pulled up this little cut screen, like I said, that kind of introduces the top secret mission to you. Marvin is causing havoc on this resort planet, so it's a big hotel resort, and your mission is to stop him at all costs. And then, almost forgot, he has abducted our greatest politicians. So that's how it introduces you. It's a hostage situation is the first level where they've got all the politicians.
Right. And so I mean, you're pulling from that. I'm pulling a little bit from the manual here and there as we discuss this. This one was where there's duck, there's fire. That was the name of this world/stage.
Okay.
And not having looked at the manual beforehand, I got to the buying screen and I froze.
Yes, this is definitely a big of the games we've talked about so far. This is very different. Giving some options at the beginning of each level, and having no clue other than the names what most of these items actually do. I didn't even know if I had ammunition going into the stage. So I was like, I've got to buy all these guns. Yeah. I've got to have all this ammo. It was like, I don't even know what this little diamond thing does. So after I beat this first stage and I got to that map again, or to like the buying selection, I was like, all right, I got to look at something because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But man, this stage, it was honestly, I felt like it was pretty good. Like it was a decent introduction where it gave you not too much to make you feel lost. But it definitely gave you some exploration rights, especially if you had jetpack fuel. I was not good with the jetpack and burned through my fuel in about 30 seconds. It goes pretty quick. that was the end of it real quick. And I didn't recognize that there was a mini map if you pause the game. So without those two things early, I was just kind of just like walking around and mashing the shoot button with the unlimited gun. Yes, the mini-map took me at least 2 or 3 levels to realize that it was a thing also. Yeah. Super helpful once I realized it. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely felt like I left a good amount of the level unexplored, but it definitely didn't take away anything. No. I'm sure there would have been just more ammo or the little continue gems, I think they were, so lying around. Little diamond things were continues. Yes, which they were not each worth a continue. No, you had to have 5. 5, yes. Which was super helpful to recognize because when I did get back to the menu screen to buy items, that was, in my opinion, a better buy than buying extra lives. Most times. Yeah. But, especially if you had 3 or 4 already. Yeah. Like, if you had 0, then you know. Like, so the exploration does help. Like, you get some items, you get some weapons, you get those little diamonds, you can find some health. At some points, I feel like more so early in the game, you could kill some of the guys, and they would drop some basic items. But I feel like that only, for me at least, it happened so rarely that I never wanted to rely on that. But I loved exploring. I thought it was a nice setup where it wasn't too spaced out or too big of a world to explore. I love that there's no clock. I mean, in reality, I was sitting there and I was like, man, we just did Bubsy not too long ago, and there's a good amount of exploration in both, but the clock really made a big difference to me, and the fact that you had health. Yes. Without the health, it was a game changer just having health and multiple hits and being able to find health like bars or whatever to get full health again. But those things made a huge difference for me. I don't feel like any of the bad guys really stood out in this world. No, not so much. I mean, they introduced the I guess what is the typical henchmen of Marvin, which are I don't know what they are. They look like big birds. I think they're technically green, like dodos. Okay. That are like, enlarged or mutated or something. Yeah. I could be wrong, but this is me pulling from my Looney Tune knowledge of things, and I feel like that's what they were or are. I buy it. And they make a lot of appearances throughout all of the stages. Honestly, I don't think I also recognize, and this is where I needed to learn it, and I needed to spend this time in this first world to really die and explore and do these things. The shield in this game is so helpful when you use it correctly. And I was forgetting to use it. Don't even know if I knew that it was a shield when I first hit all the buttons. And I was taking hits, or I was trying to jump over their shots. And the jump's a little loose. We can talk about that later. But,
I was trying to jump over them or jump over their shots and then keep shooting at them. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be an easier way. So that shield is super helpful, now early and especially later in the game.
Yeah, I think that was something I picked up pretty quickly. It must have triggered a memory from the couple times I did play this game. So I definitely used the shield right away. And the other great thing about this first world is giving you the chance to explore all the different guns and what they do. Yeah. Because I found it very important not so much in this first level. You can kill everything with the basic gun. Yeah. But later on in the game, there are certain creatures, the way that they move around the screen or whatever, that you can't hit them with your normal gun. No. So you gotta have you gotta know what other options you have and kind of pick and choose the right weapon for the right enemy, which is also kind of really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it does it's like an introductory stage without really being hand-holdy, and I think that it does a pretty good job of that if you know what you do. Honestly, again, I was hitting buttons you get there, you turn the thing on, you hit Y, you're like, what's Y do? What's B do?
Yep.
I used the special attack when nobody on screen didn't know that it was even the special attack.
The nutty.
And what type of crazy name is that? But it was one of those things, if I didn't even know what was going on for a little bit, but it gave me the chance and I didn't die in the first stage. So I was like, all right, it's at least forgiving enough to give me those opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, and I remember only because we, playing on the Super Nintendo Mini that we have here, I was able to I save state in between the worlds. So that first world, which it does, there are plenty of times where you kind of get, you think you're at the end of the world, you saved, I guess, one of the politicians. They looked more like circus ringleaders to me.
They did.
But so apparently they're politicians. But every time you saved one, you were like, is that the end of the world? Yeah. Because they would kind of fade to black, but then you just kind of keep going. And I think all said and done, it was a 20-minute level for me, at least. Which, I was just at that point, the games we had played so far, like you said, Cool Spot, Bubsy, both had timers, much shorter levels than that. So I was definitely at that point, I was kind of wow, how many levels are there going to be? And are they all going to be that long?
Yeah, no, they were pretty decent in length. But again, I think the difference is you're allowed to explore. I mean, if you were going to speedrun a game, I don't think this would be the game I'd speedrun, but you could probably cruise through this game pretty quick, honestly. Mm-hmm. If you know how to go places, how to get places, you got enough jet fuel to get places. But no, I thought the lengths were fine for the stages in the end. They clearly kind of put that length into play, and that exploration just adds to it if wanted. I don't remember, partly because I feel like it was so long ago. What was the boss for this first stage? It was that weird machine, right?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it's a spaceship necessarily.
It kind of looked like it. Yeah, that's what I would have phrased it as, or almost like a fighter jet.
Yeah, more like a fighter jet is what it looked like. And it had the little buzzsaw attachment to it. It had the machine phases. Gun. Yeah, the phases definitely, and it was a pattern recognition boss. I didn't recognize it at first.
I didn't recognize it either.
So it didn't go too well the first couple tries I had at it. But it's also where I learned the strategy of... so my favorite thing to buy at the main menu was to just buy the nutty attacks. Yeah. And I would just save them all for the boss and just mash the nutty button. And that pretty much took care of most bosses.
That is probably true.
I think you could hold up to 5 total attacks, special attacks, and 5 special attacks pretty much killed most of the bosses. All things,
yeah. No, this was probably when I first started messing around with the other guns. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of the electricity or the laser. I don't know what to call it. I think it was electricity, the lightning bolt, whatever it was called.
I think it was electricity.
I had a lot of shots for that, and I think I just stood underneath him and just smashed the Y button and had enough health that I made it through.
And that one was nice, not so much for this particular boss maybe, but because you could shoot it and it would go at different angles.
Yes.
And that was helpful for some later bosses, definitely.
That definitely helped in a couple different areas. So in between our first stage and the second stage, which was called 20,000 Martians Under the Sea, you get another little cutscene of what's going on, where we're going, right?
Yes, we are at planet Aquarion 4. That's and I'll let you know in a second what the top secret mission, if there was anything particularly hilarious in this one.
While we're kind of doing that, this is where, again, now I have all this money, and I'm like, okay, I've played around with most of these guns. I know which ones I like. I liked the spread shot. I liked having a ton of jet fuel. Yeah, the 3-shot. I liked having a ton of jet fuel. So I loaded up on those two things. And I hadn't messed around with the ice shot yet. And I didn't know what the anti-gravity gun or the anti-matter gun did at that point. Because I don't even think I had it at that point.
That might be the one gun that I just never really used enough to still...
Oh.
I don't...
Well, at the end, that was the gun I bought the most.
Okay.
But I loaded up on all those things. I like that you get the option, and you can, now that I knew what was going on, I could be like, oh, I've got 9 shots and I can buy some more, or whatever.
So the top secret, I mean, it seems to be 2 normal bullet points and then more of a hilarious one at this. So this one was leave Rubber Ducky at home.
Fair. That's a very fair comment. Oh, goodness.
So you get through, you buy what you buy, you get all your stuff, and then pretty crazy intro to this level.
Yeah. I didn't like this. I got really worried that I was going to start disliking the game with this stage.
Yeah,
because it has the Instagrow, I don't know what they're called. Those dodo bird things.
Oh yeah, he just drops them down and they just pop into shape there. And there's lots of other stuff going on at the same time with the water level up and down.
So what do you? I thought I was on a dragon. So, it felt okay. Did you watch Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z?
No, those are not really my. Not my.
I grew up watching both a little bit in the early phases, and at one point early in them, you're on the Eternal Dragon, or Goku's on the Eternal Dragon, and he has to run days upon days upon days on this thing. And that's what I felt like I was doing. I felt like I was running on the back of a dragon, trying to avoid these green things flying at me, shooting at me.
I am I'm big into ancient Greek and Roman mythology, so I assumed this was some kind of Leviathan.
Yeah.
But then it had 2 heads at the end, and I don't know if maybe that's more of a Hydra situation. I don't know.
I didn't either.
But definitely at the end with the 2 dragon heads, and just I was a little nervous at the same time. I was like, oh god, level 2, and I'm already this is not. That was probably my least favorite part of the game. It was
definitely probably my least favorite stage. I just did not. I felt rushed. I felt like you didn't have opportunity to get items. There was no real exploration. You were just running to the right and going up to end. Those mines that I would jump into because I was trying to rush with the things jumping at me, and I'm like, oh, just give me a chance to breathe. And literally, I know it's a water stage, so breathing's supposed to be difficult.
And water stages are always the worst in any game.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes second only to either really dark stages or maybe ice stages. Yeah, in general, water stage is pretty rough.
The rest of it, though, I liked when you're underwater and you're kind of exploring underwater. Some of the fish were just frustrating because I feel like I was just shooting them and missing, and
that one that just kind of homes in on you. I always imagine it looks kind of like a dog, but a fish. So
numerous times I think there's a little squid that it's hidden into the floor and it jumps out. It looks like this little red spot, and you're like, oh, what's that red thing over there? So of course I go over every single time, and it jumps out and hits me, and I'm like. And then it tracks you, so yeah. That was one of those
tracking was annoying. The fish, the multiple enemies that could track you in this game is definitely annoying.
I think that they wouldn't be so annoying if you could angle your shots upward, right? I know the triggers are great because they change your weapons, but if you could somehow, hold Y and choose the direction that you were shooting a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that some of these enemies would have been as bad or as frustrating to deal with, but
and
I
this
still
was
didn't
also
think they were
still,
that bad.
It was still a little bit before I had really determined that I should be choosing weapons better based on the enemies in front of me.
Based on who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the other bosses in this stage. None of them really stood out to me.
So a question for you, because I don't know if this is just me or not, but unrelated, side note, I had a ton, as I was playing this game, I had a lot of screen flicker going on.
Me too.
Is that, okay.
I have a ton of it. And I didn't know if it was the game, the ROM, or the game, or like if that's just naturally how it works. Like I have no idea. But I had a ton of it when there was a lot of motion going on or a lot of things on screen.
Yeah, I feel like I might kind of remember that from when I played it a long time ago. So I don't know if that's just they built a game like beyond their time or capabilities at that point or whatever it was, but I'd be interested to know if that was like not intentional, but whatever it was.
I don't remember.
I do not fully. Let's see if I can pull up the boss for this. Oh yes, okay. So this is where at the end of the boss is Marvin again, kind of zooming back and forth across the top, and right under him is the sort of container holding all the pellets that, as you hit it, drops the dodos.
Yeah.
Martian
yeah,
dodos.
I remember that one now.
Although I don't remember what you actually do.
You just shoot Marvin.
Okay.
That's all I kept trying to do.
You had to shoot him, but shoot around the dodo machine there.
I think as long as you did that, you were good. Yeah, but again, these were the things where, like, I was constantly just, like, rapid firing at anything with either the antimatter or, like, one of the better guns. And as long as you were doing that, I feel like it wasn't that bad. I know you were probably using the... God, I can't even think of the special name. What's the special again?
Oh, the nutty. The nutty, yes.
I was going to say the wacky, but I was like, I know it's not wacky because it's too polite saying wacky, and the other one's not. Yeah, not a bad fight, but nothing fancy. Nothing really, like, those things didn't stand out to me yet. There were certain bosses that did. Those didn't.
Yeah, no, that was one of the less memorable bosses for sure.
Yeah. All right, so on to stage 3, where we were Duck Dodgers on ice.
And we're on planet Zeus 3.
Zeus 3.
Its size is really huge.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere is chilling.
This is where I started realizing how funny those things were. Oh, goodness.
And this is where Dr. IQ High has been kidnapped. And his brain is being sucked dry of intelligence. And it says, certainly you can relate. Yeah. So I think there's a little shot at Duck Dodger's intelligence right there.
Duck Dodgers. Poor dude. Yeah, this is... so this is the first time we get to see the guy that I kind of threw at you this early at the beginning. Because he's actually supposed to be your friend. If you've seen any of the cartoons of Duck Dodgers, he's supposed to... Typically the guy that tells Duck Dodgers of, like, hey... this is what's going on. Go and help out. Go and save the world. And, like, he's, like, the scientist helper guy. He's the leader.
Okay.
So he's kidnapped, and I had no idea who he was or why we were saving him because I didn't know those things before I played this. So you go through the ice stages, which, honestly, because your jump and stuff is so slick anyways, I don't feel like it's much of an ice stage.
Yeah, it did not. The ice didn't bother me the way it normally would in a game because, yes, your just controls in general are definitely a bit slippery in this game, similar to like what we had mentioned about Bubsy. I'm not as upset about it because you're not a cat with claws.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, like, I'm sure webbed feet are probably supposed to help.
Well, I figured, that was kind of my thought process too. Yeah, so you do have that little bit of a slip mechanic. I think it is a little bit slicker, but it's not so bad. I think this is one of the stages where I noticed that when you shoot enough, like you shoot and you get a little like pushback. but this was one where like I started sitting down, and you could shoot yourself backwards and like go underneath and find like secret areas and get some items. And I thought that was a really like that was a fun. I liked the pushback. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like it in certain points because I was falling off or I was getting hit and falling backwards or whatever. But I liked it, and I liked that they included that into the game to help you.
Yes.
I forgot about it, but I used it a decent amount in the last world and under the sea world, because when you would jump and shoot, it would actually give you some extra height, and in the water it gave you even more height, so you could get some of those higher spots without having to use your jet fuel.
Definitely, yes. I agree that I really liked that this mechanic was in the game. It certainly was frustrating at times, but like it makes sense, and it was cool that they could incorporate it in other ways into the game also.
Yeah, so I really liked that. I feel like this is where this is where I started really using the map and exploring more and finding things. And so I feel like this is where I started taking longer to beat stages and just taking my time a little bit more, because I wanted to try and find things, or I would like be at half health and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to keep my eyes out to see if I see any health like above me, below me, wherever. Or I see any of these areas that are clearly dead end, so I know something good is in that space.
Yes. Or I would, at the beginning of the stage, spend less of my money on the special attacks, knowing I would explore and find them in the stage.
So this is where I started loading up on making sure I always had 5 diamonds and loading up on the antimatter gun. And this is the first time I realized how good it was.
All right, so you're going to have to tell me more about the antimatter gun, because I don't know, for whatever reason, I did not
use the antimatter gun on anybody other than bosses.
Okay.
But I loaded up on it. So when we get to Dr. IQ, we'll talk about it, because it was a game changer for me.
Okay.
I was starting to get more of the freeze ray, and using that, and then either the whatever ammo I found of the electric, or whatever ammo I found of the triple shot, or had of the triple shot, because I still had a lot of that. And I was starting to use more of those, like freeze a bad guy, shoot him with something else.
Yes, they took way too many shots with the regular gun and would be shooting back at you, so I definitely started using the freeze gun way more, just to make it so easy to just kill a guy.
This is when I started getting good at using the shield. I didn't get good. I got better at using the shield at this stage. I don't think I was ever really good at it, but I felt like this is the stage where I started, mixing things up better, and the gameplay made it. The gameplay, like, I feel like the developers really set it up so that you had that, and it wasn't like, oh my god, out of this world, but it was high enough that it was fun. It was enjoyable to like quickly switch to this gun, pull them at, like shoot them once with that, and then switch to something else and like shoot them 3-4 times and boom, gone. Or pull your shield up, block their shot, shoot them 2-3 times, pull it up, again, block their shot.
There was definitely a lot of mechanics that I was not expecting in this game to be so well developed as a just a game based on a cartoon.
Well, like, it's a game based off of a cartoon that you had played at least, but I feel like I didn't even know it existed. Yeah. So for me, it was like, this is a good game. Why is this not acknowledged or recognized?
Definitely, it must be underrated, or I don't know why. I'm in the wrong circles, not hearing people talk about it. But I imagine it's a very underrated game.
Yeah, I was having so much fun. All right, so we're exploring some more. We eventually get to Dr. IQ, right? And he's in some kind of crazy robot contraption thing where there's like arms that just kind of come from the sides and swoop down.
Yes.
And shoot at you. They do some weird laser thing. This was the fight I did the least in. I just pulled the antimatter gun out and stood directly underneath him, and again just mashed the button.
Yeah, this one was very
anti-clap.
The pattern. I mean, you had that one's. It was pretty easy to identify the pattern.
Oh, I didn't even so this is where I think I was not good at this game, where I didn't even need to find the pattern. I think you beat him on the first time, and I just sat underneath him and lit him up. What was his pattern? Other than him opening his arms and closing his arms and doing like a laser thing, I don't know what else he did.
So it was, the first round was 3 shots.
Yep.
One was like diagonally down, one was above you, so you didn't really have to do anything, and then one you would have to jump over.
Yeah.
Just like single bullets, or from each arm.
Yeah.
Then he brought his arms down and did like a laser beam across,
Yep.
so you just had to jump out of the middle for a second. And then the last part to it was he fired like I don't know, it was like a gravity ball or something. Like he loaded it up and fired it kind of in your direction.
Yeah.
So it was just those 3 repeating.
I just stood there and took hits and just lit them up.
Yes, only 1 or 2 of those would actually hit you right in the middle, as long as you kind of had full health and a strong enough attack.
Well, I think this is also, when you use the nutty attack, I think one of the great things that the game, I don't know if they did this purposely or not, but you get that little time afterwards where you're still invincible.
Yes.
And I would purposely use that at certain points. Like, I'd use that knowing that I was going to be safe. He could shoot things at me and it wouldn't do anything to me. And then just keep shooting at him. And
yes, definitely. I agree with that. I did the same thing. Knowing you're going to be invincible for a little while longer, you can plan that ahead a little bit.
Not going to lie, though, when he comes falling out of his machine, I feel like he looks like he's got a plunger on his head. Like, that's just what it looks like. I don't know if that's the mind control device. I don't know if that's what he always looks like. I don't know. I just remember looking at his head and being like, what is this?
Yeah, that could be the whatever brain sucking was referenced in the initial screen.
Yeah.
I didn't see enough. I mean, I definitely saw the cartoon a little bit, but I don't remember seeing Dr. IQ High specifically. So
I didn't either. And then we are on to the Incredible Shrinking Duck. And this is where you said it before, and I know you'll get to it in a second. Actually, I don't want to interrupt you. No, pull up the what's the intro for this?
So the planet is Amazonius. The size is deceiving, and the atmosphere is none, but the food is great. Marvin has developed a shrinking ray, and he's targeting Earth, and the third bullet point is just, good luck? Question mark? That's all they got for you.
So, I have so many questions with that now, because he develops a shrinking ray, and he's targeting Earth. But doesn't he shoot you in your spaceship?
Yes, he does.
And is it really, like, Amazonia, I think, like, the Amazon, like, crazy jungle and all these things. I don't feel like it's that crazy of a jungle, because, like, there's 3 or 4, like, there's an ant, there's a beetle. Like, there's not super difficult, crazy animals or insects attacking you.
Yeah, I also felt like it was pretty interesting that the ants had muskets.
Yeah.
I like to take a side note here also, as my, this is a sci-fi thing for me. Are you familiar at all with the Enderverse?
I don't think so.
So, the Ender's Game, I think, was a movie a few years ago. Don't watch it because it's terrible. But it's based on an amazing book. Very awesome Amazon short story, Ender's Game. That kind of it was supposed to be just an introduction into other books in this entire kind of universe, and there's many books related to it now. But basically, how it is Earth is being attacked by an intelligent alien species, and they're bugs. Basically, they call them. I imagine them as like ants.
Yeah,
is the way they're kind of described. So that's kind of like instantly what I thought of here. Ants with muskets just reminded me of the Formix from Ender's Game.
I just kept laughing because you'd find the one ant with a musket, but then you'd find the other ant with like the artillery gun. Like,
yes.
And those guys, for how dangerous they were if you were in front of them and near a ledge shielding or taking all those hits, couldn't turn around. So half the time I was just like, oh, I'll jump over you.
Jump right over.
That was the easiest thing. It totally caught me off guard when he started shooting upwards at an angle, though. Because that's the first enemy that was just a normal enemy that I recognized that could shoot at angles. And you can't, which sucks.
Right. True.
Like, you get the weapons that kind of do different things.
Yeah, you're going to pull out the the tri-gun or whatever they call it, really, or even hope that the electricity gun kind of shoots in the direction you want it to.
So this one, I used a lot of it's called the bomb gun.
Yes,
and that was like the cannonball, like it would drop to the ground and roll.
Yeah, that was helpful there were like worms in this stage.
Yep. And there were little beetles,
Yeah.
and they would just crawl along the floor back and forth.
Yeah, so you couldn't hit them without that.
But even the ants, if you were up on certain areas, you could shoot them. You could shoot forward, and it would drop on top of their head pretty much. Because it had that little arc. So I found myself using a lot of that to the point where I think I ended up running out of it. And this was when I started realizing that with the money, I needed to spread myself, not just on the antimatter gun, because I think I was just maxing that out every time, and spend it on more of the things, because I wasn't finding enough of some of those.
Yes, and I was at that point, that's also where I kind of started not only spreading out, but also conserving them and being like, I know I'm going to need these weapons for specific points, so I can't just run around like using whatever gun I want. If I run out, I might, mess things up later.
So I was also trying, especially with like the musket ants, like you shoot once at me and then you stand still. So like shield, block your shot, 2-3 shots of the infinite gun, the plasma gun, whatever it's called.
Yes, whatever the infinite.
Move on. And as long as I wasn't going to fall off the ledge, that was pretty easy, rinse and repeat. Save some ammo and some of the good stuff. This also had this is where I started like enjoying the boss fights more. They weren't necessarily super difficult or crazy, but you fight like the queen ant. And she sends like 2 ants at you. Like she bounces onto the stage, you just dodge her, and I used a lot of the infinite ammo gun. And so you just like light her up a bunch, and then 2 ants come on from each side, and they shoot at you until you kill both of them. And then the queen ant comes bouncing over from the other side. This is where I started to recognize that all these boss fights actually do have patterns. And as long as you recognize the pattern, they're not super difficult, but you just gotta find the pattern.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the spider boss the last boss of this level?
No, it's the giant foot.
That's right. But the spider boss was right before that. There was like no break there wasn't a level in between them, wasn't it? Just right into so the spider boss might have been the worst one for me. Like I couldn't figure it out. I hated the spider boss very much.
I don't even remember what the spider boss is, to be honest.
I'm trying to pull it up here to see. It has been a little while because we played trying to get another next game in, and we're going to have to talk about that one anyway because that one is just terrible. But so the spider goes across the top of the screen, dropping little spiders, and then at some point kind of drops down and runs after you. And the problem being the spiders are small, so you can't. They run along the ground. So you like have to again have the right weapon to be shooting them, and then you got to focus on them, and then the spider just drops down on you. And
I think my issue with this one was so much that when the big spider did drop to the ground, it was like 300 times speed. It was fast.
Yeah, it was fast.
And
you could get like one shot off.
Yeah. You had to shoot it when it was up above you going back and forth.
Yes.
And you had to dodge its little baby spiders. And the instant it hit the ground, you had to be up in the air. If you were out of jet fuel, you kind of like hoped and prayed that you got over it.
Yeah.
Because you pretty much couldn't shoot it when it was on the ground.
And then because you go right from the spider boss to this whatever next giant boss thing is, I couldn't stick with my normal strategy of using all my nutty attacks to kill the spider boss because I needed them for this other boss, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, the spider boss took me quite a few tries, and it was frustrating. I don't quite remember what I probably just mostly used the tri-gun. And sometimes you could take out the little spiders before they hit the ground, and that was easier than actually trying to take them out when they were on the ground.
Yeah, much easier. But the next fight was, I think, one of my favorites once I realized what was going on. Because at first I'm like, why is there this giant foot? Yes. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm shrunk.
We got shrunk.
And this is what, it's just like Marvin trying to step on us and shoot at us.
Yeah.
and it's got that like fun back and forth, left and right piece to it, and it just like bounces in and the screen shakes. So like this is just really fun and kind of funny to like see played out.
Now, how you had to shoot the little like
you had to shoot the laser gun.
There was like a little switch on the gun that you had to shoot.
There was I don't
a little like a toggle switch.
Okay.
Let me pull up the. Let me pull it up again here. So, a little bit.
Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah. Right. So that's what you had to hit, which I couldn't figure out.
I didn't know that's what you had to shoot. Like, I knew I had to shoot the gun. I figured that out eventually because I started using the tri-shot a lot to see, like, what am I supposed to hit? And, like, one of the bullets would hit. And I'm like, all right, so somewhere on the gun. So I kept kind of just using that as my weapon for the most part because I had a lot of ammo for that. And it had that wide shot so that it was a little bit easier to hit whatever it is on the gun you were supposed to hit. I didn't even know what I was supposed to hit. I just kept shooting. I just foot it first and realizing nothing was happening. It would just go right through them.
Yeah.
And then shooting at the gun. And I was like, oh, something's hitting. What's going on?
Yeah, so I, again, my strategy was normally to use the nutty attacks. And in most bosses, when you did that, it would kind of light up the area that gave you a hint like that's where you need to hit. And which it did not do in this case. So this is where I used the electricity gun.
Oh, yeah?
You could put yourself in one of those divots. And for the most part, you didn't get hit. If you knew the right time to get out of the way, like once in a while, his gun would, one of the shots, which would hit you in the corner. But you could basically duck down, aim up. And if it went in the right direction, the electric would hit right where it needed to on the gun. So a couple nutty attacks and a electricity gun kind of ended up eventually doing it for me.
So my question is, and I think this is what I wasn't sure of in this fight, which was like maybe the bad part of this fight for me. He shoots at you originally and it does damage to you. Is there a different bullet shot? Because I feel like I was no longer shooting him. I feel like I got hit and I was magically big and I beat the stage.
I don't know. I don't think I recognized that.
Because I feel like, so I was playing it and I'm watching like a little bit of a gameplay as we talk, but I feel like I was shooting at him and then stopped shooting at him, was running away, got hit, and the laser hit me, and it like was like, oh, you're big now. And I'm like, what what do you mean? I don't know if it was actually like a boss, like where you had to do enough damage and then the laser changed or what, but I don't feel like this boss, I feel like the boss shot me and then I was like, oh, it's all done. I'm like, okay.
Huh.
So.
I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you experienced a glitch or something there.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize that in my game, definitely. Which is funny. I've playing these games back. I think there's 3 of like 5 games that we've played so far. I think I've seen like a glitch that's actually affected some pretty interesting stuff in the game. Which is kind of funny. I definitely never saw those as a
the next game we talk about. I've got comments on that.
Yes.
All right, so that was our shrinking stage where we were the incredible shrinking duck, and then we were off to the greatest show off Earth.
And this is Mars, which is, Marvin the Martian, his home planet there. Yeah. The atmosphere is warlike, upbeat, and sassy. Marvin has a P-38 modulator, which he's going to use to blow up Earth during a concert event, and 3 is just says help, and then it also in parentheses says bring back some cool t-shirts.
Are we bringing back cool t-shirts because we're going to Mars? Are we bringing back cool t-shirts because we're going to the Gala concert? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they want some concert t-shirts, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what that one was for. I totally understood the help, because I feel like in Looney Tunes they were always like, help!
Oh, yeah.
Mother! Like, that was like those types of things where the quotes are like the little one-liners. And I got that. Loved this stage. There was a ton of exploration.
Mm-hmm.
My only struggle on the stage was the fall deaths.
Yes.
And I didn't... If you stop and check the map on a regular basis, you knew where the bottom of the stage was.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't check it as often as I needed to early in this stage, because I was just like falling off. Or I'd jump onto something, miss it, or like jump on, like fall off it afterwards, fall to my death. I'm like, what the... So I was getting a little frustrated with that. But other than that, there's so much exploration. There's so much vertical and horizontal depth in these worlds that it was fun. I liked some of the bad guys the most here.
It was a little more maze-like.
Yeah. You actually really had... It almost forced you to explore a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You could definitely go... Like, there would be little elevators, and you could choose to go up or you could choose to go down, and there was definitely different obstacles depending on what you did. But I liked that, because I would struggle to go up, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not going that way next time. I'm going to go down. Like, and I'd go down and go that way and not have any struggles, or not have the same struggles. But I liked this stage a lot.
Yeah, I feel like in some of the other stages, they were also a little maze-like, but you could tell enough on the mini-map when you paused to get a good idea of where to go. But in this one, it did take some more exploration to be like, well, I can't quite see enough of the map to know if this is going to take me where I need to go or not.
Did you notice all the speed limit signs?
5 squared. I was just going to say that.
I saw that. I was like, what a great little math joke. But I love, like, so you pull up and it's like you're like parking and like all these things, and like you see all the other people there, you see the other Looney Tune characters. And that's where I was sitting there and I was like, man, like I wish there was more cameos. Like I wish you, like, not that they need to be big in the game, but like just a quick Bugs Bunny or like a quick Yosemite Sam, Taz the Tasmanian Devil, Wile E. Coyote. Like I was like, I really wanted them to
just in the background.
Yeah, put them in the background. Yeah. Like some of the backgrounds they're not bad, but they're just simple. But those little things, especially early in one of the parts of the stage, were just really funny. You had like the little taxi cab things. Like there was just a lot of different pieces to this world that I really enjoyed. The bad guys, again, they were fun. They were different. They weren't super complicated. But this was also the stage where I was like, why are you still giving me money if this is going to be it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't... Maybe there was a place... I wish you could buy in between, like, the sections of the worlds. That was, like, if I could change little things in this game, that would have been one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could definitely be an option, but... I think there's a little bit of just, it adds in a little resource management aspect to the game. It definitely does. So, it could be interesting.
So one of the things that I wasn't sure of, and maybe you know better, maybe you don't. There was what looked like a more tall Marvin Martian. Do you know what that is? Because I didn't know what that was, and I was like, "Am I shooting Marvin? Like, who is this? What is this?"
I'm not positive, but I'm assuming that those are all like the normal Martians, and maybe Marvin is just like a Napoleon of his race or something. That's going to be my interpretation.
All right, that's
right
fair.
Or wrong. I don't know. Maybe someone can throw some answers in the comments for us.
Send us some Duck Dodgers info.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what that guy was. I didn't think he was that big of a deal, but I didn't know what that guy was. At one of the end of the stages, you get to that weird robot boss fight where like he just rolls back and forth at first, and you shoot him enough times, and then he kind of falls apart from his body or from the wheels, and he starts flying back and forth.
Yes,
nothing crazy, but a good little challenge. Like again, this is where I started doing a better job of using my basic. Not my basic gun, but the lower level weapons, the tri-shot and the electric gun. Like I was like, all right, I know I need to keep my good stuff, So I don't want to go like and use all my nutty attacks, or I don't want to go and use my antimatter attacks. I want to try and save those. But again, like that's you're just kind of saying it like it's resource management. It's planning and anticipating that I know I'm getting close to the end.
Yep.
But I don't want to waste it on just this boss. I'll waste it on the next boss. So you kind of go through a couple of those stages where there's a lot of exploration. There's a lot of up and down. I think this was probably my favorite area. This and the Incredible Shrinking Duck. I had a lot of fun. Just so much to look at and explore and like see. And do I want to go this way next time? Like I die. I don't care that I died. Like, you know, you get some games and you die a lot.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck, like this game, fuck. You get mad. Like, I was getting mad at the other game. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that soon.
And this one was more like, all right, I think I'm going to go the other way and try the other way before I go back up and make a decision on if that's the route I want to go. Maybe I'm not playing that route as well, or maybe I just find there's too many traps that way. And I really liked that it gave you those. If you explored, it gave you that option. It gave you that little, benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I really liked that about this. You get closer and closer to the end. I don't know. Was there another boss in there?
I didn't see one. I don't remember.
Oh, no. There was the weird Marvin Martian and his dog came out. Right? And they're holding they look like they're holding like the biggest bazooka or the biggest like gun ever. It was weird. All I did was I took all the sorts of hits and just mashed the button. So like they walk out onto the screen, they take like a weird like big bullet. It shoots like half of like an inch away from them, and then it spreads into like the craziest spread shot ever.
Okay, yeah.
Not a super difficult one, anyways. You could jump right over it and then just keep shooting them. And honestly, I don't think I had much struggle on it, but
yeah, I do feel like I beat it just first try.
Yeah, it wasn't one that I had struggles with or was super memorable, to be honest. And then you continued through the next world, and then you got to the boss fight of the game.
The final boss.
And I want to hear your comments first, to be honest.
It took a few tries, not too many. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was not as difficult as some of the other bosses. I felt like
really.
I didn't find it as difficult as some of the like the spider.
Yeah,
it's definitely more frustrating.
Did you have a lot of nutty attacks?
I think I had just enough that I still had to shoot him a bit, but like I was able to kind of get it. I was able to survive. Yeah. I maybe had like one hit left on my health bar.
I struggled horribly on this for some reason. And I think I walked into the fight with 4 nutty attacks and used them all. Didn't feel like they did anything to him. And so then I was like, whatever, I've got this antimatter gun. I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to just light him up. I don't know what it was. I could not figure out his pattern of his little jetpack back and forth, and I was not able to consistently shoot his little missile, his homing missile, which sometimes like homed in on you and sometimes just went up and over you and behind. And I'm like, I can't figure this out. And so I got really frustrated. I had to walk away from the game for a little bit because I was dying a lot.
Yeah, I think I want to say I had 3 or 4 nutty attacks, definitely. I feel like I just put myself in the corner.
Yeah.
I fired a bunch of times, and then when he pulled out the jetpack, I would nutty attack. Yep. So like I didn't just use them all out. Like with some of the other bosses, I just used them 4 in a row. Where this one, I was like, okay, let me just. There are times where I know I can stand here and I won't get hit and I can shoot him.
Yep.
And then when I knew I was going to get hit is when I would bust out the attack.
So I don't know how many shots it takes to kill him with a regular gun. It takes a lot.
Yes,
I did not beat him with the regular gun.
I think I might have actually, just because I had the ammo.
Yeah.
I think this was the only time in the game I used the antimatter gun.
Yeah, I think it's like 20 shots with the antimatter gun, and I think that's like about what it takes. With a nutty or 2 in there, but with a regular gun, because I was trying that at first and not realizing, like, I was more so trying to find the pattern to avoid him and avoid his missiles and like try and get to like, I had a bunch of lives. I was like, I'm going to figure this out.
There was no indication at all whether you were hurting him or how much you were hurting him.
No, nothing. And again, like quality of life, like would love a health bar, whatever. But,
or like if he just started looking more, I don't know, like if a helmet popped off or like
the old
started
school.
looking more ragged.
I know you didn't play so much of the NES the games, but did you play any of the old school? I always think of them with the Ninja Turtles, like Manhattan Project or those, where when you got to a boss fight and you damaged him enough, he started flashing.
I'm sure, not those games specifically, but I'm sure I've seen that mechanic.
Probably. Yeah, I always think it with those because those were the games I really played a lot as a kid. But yeah, if his helmet popped off or he just started like flashing, little details.
Definitely the Ninja Turtles. Turtles in Time. That seems vaguely familiar to me.
They do it in Turtles in Time. They start doing something,
yeah.
or they show the health bar as well. But you can find those little things going on. So yeah, I wish there was something like that. It would just make it a little bit easier, a little bit more known that you were getting further or you had a good round against him, all those things. So,
and then so you defeat him,
of course,
and you jump off the top of the screen,
which didn't make sense to me.
No, because then you appear back at the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
But there is like the funny sort of Looney Tunes cutscene there at the end where Porky Pig, who I don't know what his Duck Dodgers character is.
Oh, okay. Let's hit pause for a second, because at the beginning we started with the eager young space cadet and Dr. IQ.
Yes.
Right? Dr. IQ was the boss that we fought, that we saved, and we talked about him. Porky Pig is the eager young space cadet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what his name is in this game.
All right.
Fun fact.
That answers that question. But yeah, he pops in there and shoots you, trying to shoot Marvin Martian in classic Looney Tunes fashion. And yeah, it's just like this back and forth little like run off the screen in one direction, pop out in another direction.
This is the second game that we've talked about where the ending is you on stage or at a stage or at like a, and I don't think I recognized that you were even on a stage like at the gala until I beat him, and I was like, oh, there's the audience.
Yeah.
There's the curtains.
Yeah, I did not recognize that either.
But yeah, they definitely have that great little Looney Tunes moment where Porky Pig shoots you and all those things. And it's just like, Porky Pig just looks so dumb in this. He looks so lost.
And his little spandex
unitard. It's like, with the I don't mind showing a little leg, antenna. But he's showing a little too much leg. I think his butt cheeks are hanging out.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, and then and that was it. Like, nothing crazy with the credits. In most games, don't honestly. I don't really ever care that much for credits or anything.
Yeah,
but this was one of those games where after beating that boss, I was like, this was fun.
It was.
I had so much fun with this.
Yes, definitely. Not expecting. I was not expecting it.
No, I loved the weapons. There were just so many different times where, like, once you really get to know them and how they work and everything, you really learn that when they're best used in what situation. So as long as you have some of them and can use them, they're so much fun to just pull out and use and take down the basic bad guys or the bosses. I wish, again, I wanted that in level, like in between the level where you got to buy some more, because you really once you got that first taste, you knew what to anticipate then for the next two. Mm-hmm. So, I wish you could have. I really like, I know it's weird. I feel like it's weird, at least. I really like the pushback of the shots.
Yes, I like that too. It's definitely just a mechanic that I feel like is pretty unique. It's not, I'm not saying it doesn't happen in any other game, but it's very rare.
Like newer games, like when you talk about like Call of Duty or any of those like shooter games where like it shows you the spread of like a shot.
Yeah.
Like obviously that's going to happen. But this was one of those way before that time where it actually showed that there was some mechanic that this wasn't just like, oh, you can just like run and gun. This wasn't like Contra where you're just like shooting and spreading, all these shots everywhere.
And it forced you to play a certain way because you could jump up onto a ledge and shoot an enemy a couple times, but then it might shoot you right off the edge. So you had to kind of be more strategic.
Yeah. And I just really think that it was underrated and underappreciated, at least for that time. Because those were, maps were great. I wish they gave you the mini map instead of the score. I don't know what it is. Scores nowadays are just so unimportant in video games that it's funny that so many games back in the day had scores.
Yes.
I wish that they had put the mini map there. Yeah, like there's no high score at the end again. Like they didn't say like, oh, here's in the manual there's a space to put your high scores.
You record your own high score.
That was a lot of work to do back in the day.
Okay.
So I just the map wasn't super detailed, but it was enough and it was great for helping you explore. Yep. Would it be nice, like, again, quality of life things? I think that would just make this game that much more, like, good with nowadays standards.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I love the shield. I was not great at it to begin with. I got better as the game went on. I don't think I even attempted to pull the shield out on any of the bosses, so that was something I probably should have checked.
Yeah, that's a good point. I definitely used the shield less as the game went on.
Yeah.
Just kind of forgot about it. Definitely at the end there that it existed. I wonder if it would have done any
Well, there's some of those invincible, like, machines, those turrets that just, like, shoot sideways or shoot up. And I was like, this is easy. Like, I'm going to just inch forward and kind of, what's beyond you? What's going on over there?
Or enemies moved a lot more towards the end of the game, and so you could block their shots, but then they're still going to just walk right through you. They're just going to walk
right into you, yeah. So that was a little bit difficult, because there were some of those. Not that... And I don't know, we haven't had this conversation. Are you... I love Metroid. It's probably one of my favorite franchises. Are you big into Metroid?
I don't remember the one. There was one that I played kind of a lot but never beat. I think it was a Game Boy.
So Metroid 2 was on Game Boy.
I don't remember. I'm going to have to think back to it.
There were some really good ones on Game Boy Advance.
I should be more...
Did you play any of the Castlevania? So, like, do you know what I mean by you know what a Metroidvania is, right?
Yes. I should play more.
We'll get into
We'll play Metroid games, which is good. I
Metroids.
do need to play them. I haven't played them as much as
I think, in reality, I need to play more of the Castlevanias, because I've never played through a Castlevania. I've played bits and pieces, but never beaten a Castlevania game. So, for those of you listening, you can hate on us on all that. I feel like it had some Metroidvania-esque aspects of that exploration. Yeah. Not that you needed to, like, oh, you now have this new ability, you can go backtrack and like this. You could backtrack through the whole stage if you wanted to and go then take a different route. I just feel like that exploration was so much like it was very Metroid-esque, but it was Bubsy-esque. I'm comparing two very different games.
So now instead of Metroidvanias, we've got some Metroid Bubsies.
Metroid Ubsies, yeah. And it just, the health and the timer made that huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were just so many fun things to this game.
So some other aspects, the sound effects I enjoyed, the little voice of Mother.
Yeah.
And some of those when you just get hit. I can't remember the music necessarily standing out the soundtrack. It definitely wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. It didn't get annoying or frustrating. I agree with you. I didn't really think of anything and be like, oh, I could throw that on in the background and listen to that while I'm, doing some work or something. Yeah.
Just to mention a few of the other, not necessarily game mechanics, but some other pieces of the game that are interesting will affect our rating, of course.
I think the only true negative for me, I think, is the jump. The only thing in this game that I think I felt real frustration while playing was it took me a long time to get that jump under control. Mm-hmm. And even when I did, especially in the later stages when you had moving objects you had to jump onto, I didn't love how slippery the jump felt and how quickly, man, like if you didn't have jetpack feel, it was like, and you missed a jump, you're like, fuck, I'm dead. And I wasted jet fuel for my next turn.
Yeah. I don't know. I think just from having played Bubsy and Cool Spot before we've gotten to Duck Dodgers here or Marvin Missions, I don't know, it didn't bother me as much, although it definitely wasn't a great, like, yeah, it was an issue. The jumping mechanic wasn't great, but for whatever reason, like, I was able to kind of, it clicked for me pretty quickly. So
I had some struggles with it. I got through once I got through the first world, I kind of got it under control, but it came back in that last world. There were some jumps onto moving platforms or to, like, unknown areas. And I was like, oh, God, fall death.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go again. But other than that, man, there's just so many unappreciated qualities about this game and, characters about this game that I don't think it's got the craziest replayability, but I would think about replaying this again sometime.
Yeah, not anytime soon, but I would replay this game.
There's just so many exploration, and I think that the guns give you enough differentiation depending on your play style that when you get to those points, you could kind of pick and choose a little bit. And I know that, like you said, you didn't really use the antimatter gun, and I pretty much relied on the antimatter gun. Anytime I got to a boss, I was like, antimatter gun, bullet out! Yeah. And every time in between, I was like, okay, I'll do a little something different. But
yeah, I could definitely play it again and try some different strategies, like not just walking into the boss fights and nutty attacking my way through, and actually put in some strategic effort.
God.
Yeah, I could definitely replay this at some point.
It's fun. I had a lot of fun with this, and I had a lot of fun. I don't have words for how much fun I had for a game that I thought was going to be really crappy.
Yeah, again, it feels surprising that I haven't heard more people talk about this game. I guess it's got to be underappreciated or just undervalued.
So to throw this out here, because one of the things that I like to try and do, not that I like to try, but like I like to look. I was trying to find another podcast that had covered this on Spotify, to be specific. And there was one other podcast that had technically, and I use that relatively loosely. No, that's to each their own with podcasts, but it was like an hour and 50 minutes, and I think they spent about 20 minutes discussing the game. They made the occasional reference to it and everything, but it was not really about this game. And it's a good game.
Yeah, this is definitely worth talking about. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know why nobody knows about this game, but I think if you haven't played it, you need to pick it up and play it.
You do need to pick this up and play this at some point. Even just to play through it once. If that's all you do, it's worth trying and playing it, especially if you like retro games. Yeah. Anything else you want to add? I mean, I'm trying to, I feel like we hit a lot of the points. I feel like we hit the good pieces. Honestly, again, I think jumping is the only thing that I was like, I'm struggling with this. I have some wants, but I can live without those wants.
Yeah, I nothing really stood out to me as needing to be changed or added or updated. I enjoyed every part of this game. Even the small parts that I didn't really enjoy. It wasn't it's part of the challenge of playing games.
Yeah, especially some of these older games. Yeah. All right then. Should we rate this?
I think it's time to rate this game.
All right. So I'm not gonna lie. I put rating ? I have one idea, but I didn't know. Again, knowing this game was originally your idea. Did you have a number or a way to grade this? I have an idea, but it's only because I was looking at the inner details of Duck Dodgers.
Yeah, I didn't, I don't know. Nothing really jumped out to me as a way to rate this particular game.
Okay.
I don't know, what was your idea?
So, knowing that this game was, quote, and I'm reading this from the manual, based on the cartoon, quote, and it quotes itself, Duck Dodgers in the 24 and a half century. And it's phrased that way.
Okay.
24 and 1/2 century. So I didn't know if you wanted to do it out of 24 and a half.
I think we have to. I think that makes much sense
to me.
The most sense. And let's do it.
Oh, goodness. All right. 24 and a half. I think I'm going to give it a straight 20.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A surprising amount of fun. And I know this is a game that I could pick back up and play again relatively soon or next year or whenever. And I love the Looney Tune references that when you get them. I love the game weapons and the map. I just think that it's got enough humor to it that it's not like stupid humor, but it's still good humor if you can appreciate that humor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of good things. I really liked this game.
Yes.
I had so much fun.
I enjoyed it very much also. I think I go maybe a little bit higher. I think I go the 21 out of 24 and a half centuries.
It's true. I didn't century it up.
Yeah, I mean, of the games we've talked about so far, I feel like we mentioned a lot more things we did not like about those games, a lot more negatives. There really wasn't much we brought up that was negative. There were plenty of positives, and I definitely would. Again, the replay value is there. Not immediate replay value, but I could play it again. I could play this game in 6 months or so and play it all the way through, and it'd be a good time again.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this game into my life now. It was awesome. It was so much fun.
Hopefully we can bring it into the lives of many others
who
have
so.
Just, for whatever reason, not heard about it before.
Yeah. All right, man. That was a lot of fun. I had so much fun. I'm so glad we played this, and hopefully you can go out and play this yourself, or if not, go and watch a playthrough. It's totally worth it. Follow us, leave us a review. I'm just still stuck in the mindset of this game. I'm just mind blown by how great it was. Follow us on Instagram. Throw us a like. Download the podcast. Tell your friends about Duck Dodgers and the Marvin missions. Tell them to go and find this. I have no idea what this costs in real life, but if it's not crazy expensive, it's worth finding and getting and playing. I'm going to end as best I can with a Looney Tunes reference. You ready for this?
I think I know what it's going to be. Let's hear it.
That's all, folks.
Nice.
Oh,
I think
goodness.